The opinions and views expressed by individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of this network, their group, or other organization they may be involved with.
I'm looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the beauty of Tuesday evening news. Tuesday evening
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Psychedelic Reporters for this Tuesday, episode 220, this 25th of August. Here on NLK Network, the video news podcast focused on psychedelic medicine being reported in mainstream media. Shout out to the guys in Dead Ringer from Kirkland Lake, Ontario, for the awesome intro track, originally recorded by the Moody Blues, with some customized changes for our show. I am joined by my amazing subjoint host, Ron McNabb, filling in for Tara Simpson, along with the one and only Bufo Various, who has chosen all of our stories for us. Hello, Rob.
Hello, hobbies, and hello, everyone. I'd like to introduce Bufo right here, and he is the Sonoran Desert Toad, or also known as the Colorado Mud Toad. And did you know that he emits DMT from his skin? And as we've reported in the past before, park rangers would like to remind everyone to please don't lick the toad. So no licking toads, folks. No licking
no licking the toads. No
licking the
them.
toad. You can lick other things, but not the toad.
Right. Well, you got to think of it, though, dude. It's like every time I pick up a frog and I pee. So, I mean, are you really licking the DMT or?
Yeah, I think you might be licking the PEE.
Right. So, right into our first. This has been a great week in psychedelics, and for our first article, it takes us out of ScienceAlert.com. America's first legal psilocybin program treated 346 people. Here's what happened, and this was written on the August 21st by Michelle Starr. You want to start us out, Ron?
Yeah, the story goes on to here to say, for those living in the shadow of mental health conditions such as PTSD, anxiety, and depression, finding a way forward can sometimes feel impossible, especially when conventional treatments have offered little succor. Psilocybin, a psychoactive chemical found in some mushrooms, spent decades being demonized as an illicit drug. But now, results from the first state-regulated psilocybin program in the U.S. suggest the drug could offer a glimmer of hope beyond the confines of clinical trials. Between November 2024 and June 2026, a team led by Oregon Health and Science University tracked 346 patients participating in the program and found that in the first 3 months after taking psilocybin, participants reported significant improvements in mental health, well-being, and life satisfaction. Just 1 month after the dose, 92.2% of participants said the experience had been beneficial, while on average, their mental health systems had fallen dramatically. This paper is going to be cited for decades, said neuroscientist Adrienne R. Wilson Poe of the Legacy Research Institute and co-director of the Open Psychedelic Evaluation Nexus, also known as OPEN. This is the first large-scale study to monitor the safety and mental health symptoms of real people in the real world.
Mental illness affects tens of millions of Americans, many of whom find unconventional treatment insufficient or don't find it at all. In 2024, approximately 23% of U.S. adults reported symptoms of mental illness in the prior year. However, only half of those people receive treatment. This has had led researchers to investigate other opinions, such as psilocybin. Over the last decade, clinical trials have shown increasing promise that compound can alleviate the symptom of mental illness, particularly in patients for whom other treatments have not worked well. A clinical trial, however, is very tightly controlled setting. The Oregon study is a totally different beast. The program officially opened its doors to clients in mid-2023 rather than using carefully selected participants. Synthetic pharmaceutical psilocybin and ongoing therapeutic support. It allows any adult over 21 to participate for any reason, use mushrooms derived products, and doesn't require facilitators to have professional clinical training. So what happens? The researchers want to know, when you take psilocybin out of the tightly controlled clinical trial environment and offered it to ordinary members of the public. Open recruited 346 clients of the program across 24 licensed services centers in Oregon who are willing to participate in assessing its outcome and safety. Each client received a supervised dose of psilocybin, averaging 31.9 milligrams, although individual doses ranged from 2 to 50 milligrams. Clients underwent preparation beforehand, took the psilocybin under the facilitator supervision, and could attend integration sessions afterward. They also completed surveys to assess changes in symptoms and life satisfaction before the dose at several points after up to 3 months later. Wow.
Right. The results were impressive. After 3 months, the proportion of participants reporting moderate to severe PTSD symptoms had fallen from 48% to 16.8%. Wow, that's a big drop. Moderate to severe anxiety fell from 45.1% to 13.2%. Wow, another big drop over the same time frame. While moderate to severe depression fell from 42.2% to 16.5%. Well, you don't see these numbers in pharmaceuticals, any of the SSRIs or anything like that, right? Meanwhile, life satisfaction. Now, this is a huge one. This is a huge one that makes a huge difference, brings in the human factor into this, right? Meanwhile, life satisfaction rose from 63% to 82.3% across the cohort. But it wasn't all great news for people. 1.2% of the cohort experienced serious behavioral reactions requiring medical attention. And that is unfortunate, but as we know with these studies, there are going to be some outliers that may not react the way that the majority of the participants do. One person became violent and was transported to the hospital. Another subsequently reported an emergency room visit, worsening anxiety and depression, and thoughts of self-harm. A third reported an emergency room visit and worsening anxiety and depression. And the fourth reported severe anxiety and insomnia requiring medication, plus worsening anxiety and depression and thoughts of self-harm through 3 months. All 4 were psychedelic naive, which means they hadn't taken a psychedelic before and had symptoms of depression, anxiety, and or PTSD before taking psilocybin. They also received moderate to high doses of 25 to 50 milligrams. The researchers suggest that in experience with psychedelics, greater psychological vulnerability and higher doses may increase the risk of serious reactions, although 4 cases are far too few to establish that. Right? And out of that, like, because that's what 346 or whatever it was, you only had 4 that had serious adverse reactions. Again, look at the pharmaceutical studies. I think you might have higher percentages of adverse reactions.
I wonder if they had like suicidal ideation before that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like those,
right.
Like, yeah, because
maybe the psilocybin
suffered depression.
Yeah, maybe they need a higher dose of psilocybin.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Hi, Kim.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
So there are several limitations because it's a real world study. It can't prove that psilocybin caused the improvements. There was no control group. Participants chose to use the service, and only around 5% of Oregon's psilocybin clients during the study period participated in the open. In addition, most of the participants were white and relatively affluent. However, Oregon's experiment is already considerably larger than this study alone might suggest. More than 20,000 people have received regulated psilocybin services in the state since 2023, more than 6 times the number who have participated in clinical trials of classic psychedelics since 1951. For study lead Todd Corthius of Oregon Health and Science University and his colleagues, the findings suggest that the benefits seen in tightly controlled clinical trials carry over into the messier real world. Although the small number of serious reactions shows that psilocybin is not without the risk. Psilocybin isn't suitable for everyone, and fuck yeah, I agree that. And anyone considering it should discuss the potential risk with a medical professional, particularly if they are existing health conditions or take medications that could interact it. And I concur that because anything when I was going through my surgeries, anything that I was taking naturally, I was working with my doctor. And my doctor didn't give me the whole spiel you shouldn't, because when it comes down to it, a puppet's gonna do what the fuck a puppet's gonna do. How can I? And the doctor's job was, how can I make sure this patient stays healthy while he does what the fuck he wants to do?
Right. Yeah. And certain medications can have interactions. Some a little bit severe, some not so severe, but it is important to let your doctor know. Right.
Yeah.
Just a little bit left. There's just a couple little sentences left there. Did you want me to finish them off, Todd?
Yeah, if you can.
Sure.
Yes, please.
But the findings offer encouraging early evidence that bringing psilocybin outside the traditional medical model doesn't necessarily mean leaving its potential benefits behind. There's a quote here: just because something isn't a medical model doesn't mean you can't have mental health benefits, Corthius says. And the results have been published in the JAMA Network Open, and there is a clickable link there for that. So very cool article. Very high successive numbers. Six. Yeah.
And I just realized that when Bufo, I mean, this article was great. This was good, and when he chose this one, I like it. I like it a lot. our second article, which should have been our first because we talk about the DMT. Bufo's missed the chance of throwing it in there after we were talking about the P. But our next article comes from trialsitenews.com. And this is always cool to get stuff off of this site because it talks about the different trials going on, psychedelic and natural medicines. DMT moves from psychedelic fringe to serious drug development, but evidence still trails the hype. And this was written by the trial site staff. It goes on to state DMT has spent decades carrying more mythology than clinical data. That balance is changing. And dimethyltryptamine and DMT is a powerful short-acting serotonergic psychedelic found in numerous plants is a principal psychoactive component of ayahuasca. It is not the same molecule as 5-MeO-DMT, another psychedelic frequently blurred into DMT coverage. Researchers increasingly view NN-DMT as both a tool for probing consciousness and a potential rapid-acting psychiatric medicine. You want to go on to continue?
Yeah, the story continues on here saying what DMT does to the brain. DMT's psychedelic effects are driven principally by agonism of serotonin 5-HT2A receptors in a 2023 PNAS placebo-controlled EEG fMRI study of 20 healthy volunteers. Christopher Timmerman in Imperial College London colleagues found increased global brain connectivity, breakdown of normal network boundaries, and brain changes tracking subjective intensity. Speed is DMT's defining feature. A 2026 randomized University Hospital Basel study mapped dose-dependent effects of 5 to 20 milligrams intravenous boluses, while a 2025 Basel trial in 22 participants showed continuous infusions could extend the experience for 2 hours and permit controlled dose titration. DMT also interacts with sigma-1 receptors, generating interest in neuroplasticity. A 2020 translational psychiatric study, a 2020 translational psychiatry study found DMT promoted neural stem cell proliferation and differentiation, hippocampal neurogenesis, and better memory performance in mice. That is intriguing biology, but not evidence that DMT regenerates the human brain. And why ayahuasca lasts longer? Unprotected oral DMT is rapidly metabolized by monoamine oxidase A. Ayahuasca pairs DMT with beta-carboline MAO inhibitors, such as harmine, prolonging exposure. University of Zurich investigators have converted this pharmacology into standardized DMT harmine formulations in a randomized study in 31 healthy volunteers produced ayahuasca-like psychological effects lasting roughly 2 to 3 hours. Other placebo-controlled Zurich studies have explored meditation, self-processing, and compassion. Very cool.
So, illegal drug legitimate research. In the United States, NN-DMT remains a Schedule 1 controlled substance. In the UK, classifies it as a Class A and a Schedule 1. Legal implementation elsewhere in Europe varies nationally. Controlled substatus, nevertheless, permits appropriately licensed scientific research. The regulatory answer is clear. As of 2026, neither FDA nor European Medicines Agency has approved and DMT for any medical indication. FDA directs approval verification through drugs on FDA, while EMA continues to frame psychedelics as an emerging drug development area requiring regulatory guidance, clinical trial and authorization, or an FDA investigational new drug clearance is not marketing approval. Um, Depression leads anxiety is coming fast. Treatment resistant depression currently has the clearest clinical signal for native DMT in neuropsychopharmacology. In 2025, Marcelo Belgi Carvola, Fernando Palfano, can we just Fernando P. Draulio A. and colleagues at Brazil's Federal University of Rio Grande do Norte reported an open label phase 2A study of 14 patients receiving vaporized 15 milligram and 60 milligrams doses. Mean MADRS depression scores fell 21.14 points by day 7. 85.7 responded and 57 entered remission, with reported benefit extending as long as 3 months. Those numbers command attention with 14 patients, no placebo group, and a strong expectancy potential. They remain hypothesis generating rather than conformant. Generalized anxiety disorder is another serious target, although the lead asset is HLP004, Helus Pharma's what is that word?
Deuterated. Deuterated.
What the fuck is a deuterated?
I don't know what that is.
Deuterated DMT analog rather than native DMT. In a 36 patient randomized phase 2 study, Helus reported a 10.4 point HAM-A reduction from baseline at 6 weeks and 20 milligrams. Week 6 response was 59%, 30% with the 2 milligram low dose control. But both groups experienced meaningful subjective effects, and the findings remain company reported top line results, not peer reviewed confirmation. Wow.
Wow. The centers that actually know DMT, the deepest academic footprints are increasingly clear. Imperial College London Center for Psychedelic Research, particularly Timmerman, David Eritzo, and David Nutt, has built a major human DMT consciousness and neuroimaging program. University Hospital Basel, University of Basel, including Matthias Lichty, Severin Vogt, and Livio Ern, is defining dose pharmacokinetics and controllable infusion models. UFRN's Brain Institute in Camp is in Brazil, led prominently by Arujo, Palhano Fontes, and Falchi Carvalho, is pushing native DMT directly into treatment-resistant depression. The University of Zurich with Milan Scheidegger, Boris Kudau, and Dario Dornbierer has emerged as a center for pharmaceutical DMT slash harmine development. Trial site take, fast drug, slow proof. DMT's commercial and clinical traction is almost self-evident, a profound psychedelic state compressed into minutes rather than an all-day treatment encounter. Depression presently looks most promising for native DMT. Anxiety is emerging for engineered DMT analogs, but enthusiasm should not be confused with evidence. A 2025 systematic review found only 5 qualifying early phase trials with transient increases in blood pressure and heart rate among observed effects. DMT has unquestionably crossed from psychedelic folklore into legitimate translational medicine. It has not crossed into proven medicine. The next threshold is not another dramatic small cohort of signal. It is adequately powered, blinded, controlled clinical evidence showing durable benefit and acceptable safety. Right?
That was a good article. That was a good one because DMT is quite interesting. When I tried it, it was in a leaf form, and they talked about how it was in a root or some sort of a root, and it had the DMT properties, and it was the weirdest thing, man. The weirdest thing I ever took in my life. It was it was healing in ways I couldn't even explain to you.
Right.
Like I just felt really comfortable, like something was taken off of me.
Very cool. That's very cool. It's yeah, and one thing I liked that I took away from this article was before we finish on this one is they're saying native DMT for depression and the analogs for anxiety. I don't know. I'd like to see more studies into that.
So when they say analog, that's a synthetic?
Yeah, I do believe.
And then the natural is like through the other ways.
Yeah, I do believe.
Huh. Well, thank you everybody for coming, and we are on to our third article, which brings us from technologynetworks.com. Technology Network states what movie or music you experienced during psilocybin matters. It states that psilocybin reorganized brain networks according to environmental context and activity. And this is written by Rihanna Lily Smith. You want to start out for us?
Yeah, sure. When neuroscientists look at brain scans of individuals taking psychedelics, they often see a firework of activity across their screens. And it was this buzz of noise that led researchers to believe that these drugs can complete mental chaos. That these drugs cause complete mental chaos. Challenging this belief, a team from Monash University has revealed that psilocybin rewires brain networks to match a person's immediate surroundings. Instead of a random disarray, brain activity dynamically aligns with context, which can directly predict positive mood improvements the next day. Rethinking how psychedelics alter brain activity. Psychedelics hold immense therapeutic promise. Clinical trials show that compounds such as psilocybin can lift treatment-resistant depression, ease crippling anxiety, and break addictions with a single dose. But how one brief trip can lead to months of emotional healing remains unknown. Older brain imaging studies have suggested that psychedelics throw the brain into disarray. Research demonstrated reduced connectivity in control centers such as the default mode network, framing the trip as a chaotic, desynchronized state. However, these studies had a flaw. They relied on small groups sitting in quiet, dark rooms with their eyes closed. Rigid lab tests and dark rooms failed to capture how real surroundings interact with psychedelics to affect brain function. The new study aimed to test whether the apparent psychedelic-induced turmoil conceals a subtle, organized pattern. Interesting.
It is. And mapping real-time brain dynamics under psychedelics, the team recruited 62 healthy adults who had never taken psychedelics. Each participant received the 19 milligram dose of psilocybin before undergoing brain scans using functional magnetic resonance imaging and a 64-channel electroencephalogram, which is a EFG. Across four environments: quiet rest, guided meditation, music, and a movie. The MRI scans tracked blood oxygen level dependent, which they call both signals, which allowed the team to map which brain regions were actively talking to one another in real time. During eyes closed rest, the sensory brain networks quieted down, dropping global connectivity by up to 39%, while higher level thinking networks increased. However, when participants were watching a movie, sensory and higher order networks merge, reducing the gap between internal thoughts and external sights by 85%. We uncovered hidden order within that disruption, said the lead author, Dr. Devin Stoliker, a neuroscientist at Monash University. Under psilocybin brain networks that help us process our inner world and the world under us or around us became less distinct, but reorganized into patterns that reflected what people were experiencing. This was the strongest in people who had more positive psychedelics experiences and felt less separate from the world around them. It goes on to state, using advanced machine learning, the team mapped bold signal shifts into structural trajectories. The patterns changed depending on whether participants were resting, listening to music, meditating, or watching a movie, said corresponding author Professor Adil Razi from Monash University. Rather than the chaotic noise, the brain remodeled itself around each activity. The EEG scans validated the fMRI data, confirming that psilocybin was lowering the brain's sensory filtering. Participants who showed the strongest network reorganization felt the strongest sense of connection and showed significant mindset improvements 24 hours later. Until now, brain imaging studies have mainly told us what happens on average across a group. Using AI, we could measure this recognition in each person, said Stoliker. Oh man, what a great article so far.
Right. What context alignment means for psychedelic therapy as boundaries between internal thoughts and external sights soften, the participants experienced a deep sense of belonging within the world, suggesting a biological explanation for why set and setting are so important in psychedelic therapy. And that's a phrase we hear so often with psychedelics: set and setting, right? It's a huge important part of using psychedelics as medicine, is ensuring you have the proper set and setting. There's just a little notation here of what set and setting refers to is the psychological and physical environment of a psychedelic session. The set is the person's internal mindset, expectations, and emotional state going in, while setting is the external physical environment, including the room, music, lighting, and presence of a guide. There's a quote here that says, "This shows that context is not just background to the psychedelic experience. What a person is doing and focusing on shapes how their brain responds. For treatment, that reinforces why the environment and what a person does and experiences during the psychedelic session matters," said Razi. If translated to patients, this would eventually help clinicians understand how someone is responding and predict who is most likely to benefit, Razi added. Goes on here to say more countries are starting to see the untapped potential of psychedelics in mental health care, and Australia is leading the way. Australia is a trailblazer in this growing area of science with a distinct global advantage in scaling these therapies responsibly, Razi said. Australia was the first country in the world to legalize psilocybin for treatment-resistant depression, and MDMA, 3,4-methylene dioxymethamphetamine, for post-traumatic stress disorder. The United States and other nations may soon follow suit. There's a quote here: as these countries look to us for direction, research from Monash will provide critical evidence to guide safe and effective implementation, Razi added. However, more research is still needed. The study evaluated healthy adults on a fixed 19 milligram dose without a placebo control or randomized task order, meaning results must be tested in clinical populations facing depression or post-traumatic stress disorder to understand its benefits fully. Looking ahead, the team plans to test these trajectory models in clinical trials and investigate how specific sights and sounds alter neural connections at the microscopic level. And understanding these dynamics could soon allow therapists to tailor psychedelic sessions to each patient's unique needs. So very, very interesting story. I like that story.
It is. Sometimes when I sit and I'll there's different things that you listen to when you watch, and the sensory, and while you're like staring out at outside, when you're taking a macro dose or something, and you're in that vibe, and you're feeling that. It's I feel it is helpful, the stimulant, like what you're watching, stimulating your brain. Like, I can't do horror movies while I'm shrooming because that fucks my head up. I don't want to go there while I'm fucking shrooming.
Right. And that's why setting is so important, I think, because different people will react with different. Who knows? Some people may react okay with a horror movie with shrooms.
Right, but it's chaos. I'm eating mushrooms so I can escape the chaos. So my voices are a little calmer and shit,
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know. But speaking of medication, it is my favorite time of the show, medication time.
That's right, folks. It is time to pay some bills, so stay tuned for a word for some of our sponsors. Then we will return with more articles that Bufo has chosen, making mainstream media news.
Back in 4 minutes and 20 seconds here on Psychedelic Reporters on NLK Networks.
Dirty Dave, award-winning cultivator for over 4 decades. Dirty Dave, prized genetics fueled by advanced nutrients, original OG organics. Dirty Dave, award-winning products available at these fine establishments. Ask your shop to carry Dirty Dave. Contact us at dirtiesdoggies@gmail.com.
Established in 2013, Northern Ontario Cannabis Education and Resources is here for you. NOSER Director Kim Cooper brings you 45 plus years experience utilizing cannabis as a medicine, and she is spreading that education across the North. Don't be a jackass. Say no, sir, to propaganda with NOSER. Find them at www.nocer.ca.
Hey, hi, my name is John Mark, aka Sublimator Warrior, and I would like to welcome you to Smoke Signal in Tyndinaga.
One dab make your whole dome drip sweat. One dab make the homies all dip set. One dab, only really need one dab. One dab.
Smoke Signal is a medical dispensary where you can get all your products and needs.
Start vaping a whole bunch. Might just start laying off the blunts. God. Ooey, ooey, gooey, that's a sticky dab. Sticky dab. Might just have to put this one on Instagram. Go and hold it in, feel it in your ribs.
So come and check us out in Tyndinaga. 55 Highway 49 in Tyndinaga. It's on the res, and we're open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week.
Hey, dudes and dudettes. Enjoy the show, man.
And we're back with another set of story. No, hold on. Yeah, we're back from our medication session live on Psychedelic Reporters here on NOK Network.
And we have another set of stories coming at you from the realm of psychedelic medicine. So let's get at it. You know, I tried to get the Mel, the fun guy, up here, but the little asshole was like greened out over there, dude. He's like, "You don't want to get up here." So, like, here I am. Yep. It's like, what's the point of having a psychedelic mushroom around, puppet, if he ain't going to fucking do the news? All right. So, our next
shrooms.
Keeps
getting into those shrooms, right?
I bet. You know, can you imagine being a mushroom just licking your fingers?
Right.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of mushrooms and psychedelic medication, our fourth article of the evening, it comes from umassmed.edu. I almost said but no, it's umassmed.edu, and they state that UMass Chan researchers study psychedelic medication for adjustment disorder in people with serious medical conditions. And this is by Haley Mignacca. You want to start us out on that, man?
Yeah, the story goes on here to say a clinical trial at UMass Chan Medical School is evaluating whether an investigational psychedelic medication can help people experiencing adjustment disorder after being diagnosed with a serious medical condition. The study will evaluate whether the lab-made chemical 4-OH-DIPT can improve symptoms of adjustment disorder in people with cancer, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis or ALS, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, or idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. This chemical acts similarly to psilocybin, the active ingredient in certain mushroom species. The study is being led by Anthony Rothschild, MD, the Irving S. and Betty Brudnick Chair in Psychiatry and Professor of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences, and brings together clinicians and researchers across multiple departments, including psychiatry, medicine, and neurology. Adjustment disorder can occur when a person experiences significant emotional or behavioral symptoms in response to an identifiable stressor, such as a divorce, job loss, or a serious medical diagnosis. Symptoms may include sadness, overwhelming worry or fear, loss of interest in daily activities, withdrawal from friends and family, difficulty sleeping and concentrating, difficulty sleeping or concentrating, and feelings of hopelessness about the future.
So there are no FDA approved treatments for adjustment disorder, said Dr. Rothschild. This study is a part of a long history of exploring the potential use of psychedelic medication to help people. Some of the earliest studies of psychedelic examined their potential use among people with cancer experiencing significant psychological distress. Whew, I got a sniffles, man. That's yeah. So while adjustment disorder can develop in response to a range of life events, such as a divorce or a loss of job, the study focuses on people whose symptoms occur in the context of a serious medical illness. The investigational medication in the study will be administered through a single sub cutaneous injection, meaning it's delivered just under the skin. The medication is designed to absorb relatively quickly and travel across the blood-brain barrier. Its effects are expected to last approximately 3 to 4 hours. Researchers will evaluate the drug's impact on the participant's emotional state and mood 1 week after dosing and will continue to follow participants for 6 weeks post-treatment. The study has begun enrolling participants primarily from the UMass Memorial Health patient population. The study will take place in a highly controlled clinical setting due to the potential side effects of the drug. A trained monitor will remain with participants throughout the dosing experience, and a physician trained in advanced life support will be available nearby. Participants will be closely monitored for potential psychiatric and medical side effects during dosing and throughout the follow-up period. While the medication's immediate effects are expected to diminish after several hours, participants will remain at the study site for additional observation and return for weekly evaluations over the 6 week follow-up period. Trial builds on UMass Chan's growing research into psychedelic medications, including research involving psilocybin for treatment-resistant depression. Additional studies will be determine whether the drug's effects and extend beyond that potential 6 week time frame. The first step is just to see how it works, and if it lasts 6 weeks, said Rothschild, there'll be other studies that will be done to last if it lasts longer. So, what kind of psychedelics are they using? It's a chemical made 4-OH-DIPT. So is that a psilocybin? I mean, is it a psilocybin base? Is it like what do they make it? It doesn't really talk about it.
It says the chemical acts similarly to psilocybin, the active ingredient in certain mushroom species. So I would have to say by that it's not psilocybin based. That
Okay, so it's a synthetic based off of
that they've just kind of synthetically copied the
psychedelic
they've been able to mimic the psilocybin.
So if this works, do you think they'll float more towards this because it's not of the natural medicines? And then
I think they will. I think they will because they'll be able to patent this stuff
because it doesn't have
be able to make money.
Right.
It's all about the money. It's not about the
so
health.
Could you still get the psychedelic research money though if it's not technically a psychedelic just because it acts like it?
You know what? I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. I would probably say
I don't know. That'd be like me going into the minority college. If I wasn't a minority, I wouldn't be able to get the funding.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Something to look into.
It is. But that's a good article. I love seeing research done and seeing where you go. As I look at the time, do you think we got time for this other one?
I think we do. It says reading time 3 minutes. I think we got time.
Yeah, it's not really big, and SciPost usually does have big ones, but this is a smaller article, and we're going to read it because it's a good one. Unique psychedelic shows promise, and this is from SciPost.org. A unique psychedelic shows promise for pain and stroke, and this is by Bianca Settianago. It starts as an unusual psychedelic compound found in the plant Salvia divinorum has shown potentially useful effects against pain, addiction, and stroke in animal experience. Although side effects remain a major barrier, the systematic review was published in the journal Translational Psychiatry and found much less consistent evidence for treating depression. The compound Salvinor A differs markedly from substances such as psilocybin and LSD. Those better known psychedelics primarily affect the brain serotonin, signaling how the brain used the chemical messenger serotonin to regulate mood and perception. In contrast, Salvinorin A acts mainly through a different system known as kappa opioid receptor, which is a specific protein in the brain involved in pain, mood, and consciousness. This distinction has attracted researchers and interested in developing treatments that work through pathways not targeted by classic psychedelics. Laboratory experiments have investigated salvinorin A as conditions ranging from pain and drug addiction to depression and reduced blood flow to the brain, such as during a stroke. Yet the evidence was scattered across different species, doses, and experiment models. Human therapeutic trials testing the drug in human patients are scarce, making it difficult to determine whether promising animal findings justify further clinical development, and it's led by Wolfgang Emanuel Zora at the University of Zurich. The researchers systematically searched three major scientific databases for relevant animal studies in their descriptive review, with 10 providing sufficiently compared data for meta-analysis, a statistical method that combines the results of multiple studies to find overarching trends. This thing doesn't have paragraphs for me, so do you want to continue?
Yeah. The studies collectively used about 3,456 animals. Rats accounted for the largest share, followed by mice, non-human primates, piglets, and the zebrafish. Across the evidence, salvinorin A repeatedly reduced pain-related responses in inflammation, showed protective effects in experimental models of stroke and brain-related injuries, and reduced some forms of drug-seeking behavior. Depression was a very different story. Some studies recorded behavior consistent with an antidepressant effect, while others found the opposite, including depression-like responses. Safety also produced a mixed picture. Animal studies reported animal-like behavior and problems with movement and cognition, thinking and memory skills, yet the compound generally had limited effects on vital physical measures like heart rate or blood pressure. Its extremely short action presents another challenge. Another challenge, depending on how it was given, concentrations peaked within seconds or minutes. Its measured brain half-life, the time it takes for half of the substance to break down and leave the brain, ranged from about 3 to 36 minutes, with elimination from the blood taking roughly an hour. The review also identified 16 chemically modified relatives of salvinorin A. Several lasted longer, entered the brain more effectively, or produced fewer unwanted behavioral effects in animals, suggesting that the parent compound might ultimately be more valuable as a starting point for drug development than as a medicine itself. The authors concluded, our findings find the therapeutic, our findings support the therapeutic potential for salvinorin A for pain, addiction, and stroke, though its side effect profile may limit clinical application. The development of novel compounds could address these challenges. However, some limitations are to be noted. For instance, animal models cannot reproduce the complexity of human psychiatric illness. The review experiments varied substantially in design, and young male rodents dominated the evidence base, meaning the results might not perfectly translate to humans or to females. The study, Translational Potential of Salvinorin A, Systematic Review and Meta-Analysis of Preclinical Studies. Was authored by Wolfgang Emanuel Zurer, Lionel Wetstein, Helena D. Acher, Milan Schreidiger, and Benjamin Victor Iniken. So yeah, very, very, very neat article there.
It is. It's a very, very interesting article. Very nice. I love it. It's man, I love it because they're coming up with another plan, and if it's hitting you different, and you take that with another thing, that's like rounding it out. It's kind of like the dab and like vapes and how edibles hit. You know,
Right.
you take all three of them together, it's like it's one hell of a medicine.
Right. So, exciting things to see with these studies, and we shall see more as time goes on. Right.
And I thank you, Ron, for coming on the show as a sub. It's always great. And then we get to do it live. That was fun. And man, thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. Thank you for joining us here on Psychedelic Reporters on NLK Network and for tuning into our video podcast on NLK Network's Rumble and YouTube pages, as well as our social media sites.
That's right, and we hope you all enjoyed your update on mainstream media coverage of psychedelic medicine advancements from around the globe.
Many thanks to our sponsors and my joint sub-host, Ron McNabb, and to Bufalvarius for choosing the stories, and to you, our listeners, for joining each week on Psychedelic Tuesday. But let's hear from Dead Ringer again from Kirkland Lake on our way out. Good night.
Good night.
I'm looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the beauty of